I see no reason to not start off a video with a Scyther. Nothing wrong with this at all. So, if you are aware of Pokemon encounter tables or remember what I've said in the past, then you know where I am. This is the bug catching contest. It's currently a Tuesday, and I actually do have the in-game clock set correctly, so I figured I might as well catch this thing because I've been putting it off for a while, along with 19 other things that I need to catch. That's not an actual number, that's just me saying something, but... Okay, how many times are we going to miss with Hypnosis here? So far it's been 4. Can we go for 5? But yeah. Not going to run through the whole list of everything I'm missing again. I'll get them all eventually, but I figured I'd get this one because Scyther is cool, and I keep forgetting that I need to do the bug catching contest because it's only available on 3 of the 7 days, so... Now can we actually get this thing in the ball? That's the question. I do need a second Sunstone, and the best way to guarantee that you get one is to catch a rare Pokemon at full health. So, I mean, we might be here for a while. If I have to, I can weaken it. Like, if I get down to just, like, 5 balls or something, I don't want to press my luck too hard, but we're gonna try this for a bit at least. Okay, cool. One other quick thing I did off-screen before this was I cloned the Dig TM, so we're gonna make use of that in a minute. But, I'll go ahead and do the Scyther bio as soon as I'm done with the contest. Let's verify if I won or if Bug Catcher Arnie caught a massive Caterpie, the likes of which have never been seen, that managed to beat me. Really? Okay, what the fuck beat me? Okay, at least it was something rare. Still kind of bullshit. I'll be sure to chuck that in the trash. Yeah, Everstone's pretty useless in Gen 2. Could call this thing failure. But no, yeah, Everstone's useful from, like, Emerald onwards for passing down natures and breeding, but in this game it's just for preventing evolution, which basically just means it saves you a few seconds and a B press every time you level something up. Not really something I care about. And yes, I am still waiting to put off evolution on Natalie, but still, not important. Alright, so... I guess let's talk about Scyther a bit, and I'm gonna be, heading off to Olivine to do a bunch of fishing, and that's also going to be a bunch of bios, so prepare for a big string of them at the beginning of this video, and then probably not much in the second half. Scyther is yet another member of the bug and flying group, but unlike most of its other brethren, it managed to actually escape from the suckiness of that group and kind of made a name for itself. It's usually considered probably the coolest bug type of Gen 1, possibly just best bug type overall. Maybe not in terms of overall stats, but just in kind of popularity and being popular with the kiddos because it's cool looking. Basically, it's just a mantis dinosaur with blades for arms, so you can't really go wrong with that. Not really much in-depth to say about that in terms of design either. It's based off of a mantis in the sense that it is an insect and it has the same kind of arms going on, but its head doesn't really look anything like a mantis, because they're known for having like the giant bug eyes, and we never really got a proper mantis until Gen 7. Those don't really have the giant bug eyes either, but that's another story entirely. But I don't think anybody really complained about that. Maybe Bogleach, but I don't know if we should count that. But no, it's just generally a cool design. A lot of the other bugs are just kind of lame. And then we had Scyther and Pinsir, which were the version exclusives in Gen 1, and then kind of fell out of that eventually once Pinsir and Heracross became more counterparts. But between the two, I always felt that Scyther was definitely the cooler of them, and the fact that I picked blue and Scyther was in red was a bit of a selling point for the other version, but not enough for me to really care. Because as far as Pinsir goes, I've talked about that one before, how it basically in the early generations was kind of limited to just normal and fighting moves, and that was about it. And I never really thought much about it, but Scyther is kind of the same way. In Gen 1, it gets Wing Attack at level 50. I don't know why you have to wait that long to get it, but that's its only stab move. Gen 2, it also only gets Wing Attack, but can also learn Fury Cutter, which is not that great of a move. Gen 3, it gets Silver Wind through breeding specifically, which is also not that impressive. And it finally doesn't actually get a decent bug move until Gen 4 when it gets X-Scissor. And Gen 4 is also the generation that made its evolution a lot better, so there's not much of a reason to keep it as a Scyther in that version either, so it's like, I don't know. It's always just kind of gotten a little bit of a bad hand in that. So, as far as the fact that as far as its typing goes, yeah, you can make it work with just normal moves and Wing Attack or whatever, because it has the stats to, hit strong, and it has a good speed. But the problem with that is, if you want to use something to just hit with Slash and that kind of stuff, you have other options that don't come in the Safari Zone very rarely. So if you're going to use a Scyther, you're pretty much going to use it just because it looks cool, not because it's all that great. Because again, if you want to just use something with normal attacks, you can use a normal type that won't have the weaknesses that come with the bug flying type. It doesn't really make use of its flying subtype at all. The fact that it has wings, I feel, shouldn't necessarily make it a flying type either, because there's plenty of other Pokemon that have them that don't have that type, so I don't know. But yeah, that's about it for this one. Name is about as self-explanatory as you can get. It's a thing that scythes, therefore it is a Scyther, and its Japanese name is Strike, which is basically just the same concept. Krabby's a bit of an interesting case, not because it itself is interesting, but because there's a bit of a thing in the Pokemon fandom where people like to make topics on what the most forgettable Pokemon ever is, and a lot of times stuff like Dunsparce and Finneon and certain other later gen stuff that doesn't really do much, those will get brought up quite a bit. And as far as Gen 1 goes, sometimes people point out Seal, which is sort of Krabby's spiritual counterpart in terms of just being an animal with a name that is just the animal name. But I never see Krabby mentioned in those, and I think this one actually might win out, because it really does not do much to stand out. There's already a million water types, even in Gen 1. It got worse later on. Gen 2 and 3 added a lot that they didn't need to, but there's still a fair amount of them in Gen 1. And Krabby at least has the distinction of not being a fish, or an animal that swims. So it's got that going for it, but that's about it. Basically, the distribution of this thing doesn't do it any favors either, because in Gen 1, to catch a Krabby, you need the Super Rod, and because Gen 1 has a really weird non-linear progression, you might actually get the Super Rod before the Good Rod, but either way, it's still pretty late into the game. And so by that point, you've probably already picked a water type, or if you're going to use a new water type, you're probably not going to go with this one. Gen 2 improves that a little bit by making it available more early on, but it's still not the kind of thing that most players are going to pick up usually. And those are actually the only games that you can find a Krabby anywhere other than the post-game. So they kind of just, if you happen to be a fan of this one, then you're not really going to get much of a chance to use it, unfortunately. So it's got that, it's got that holding it back, and then in the games where it is available, of those, Heart Gold and Soul Silver are the only ones where it can actually make use of its better stat, because it is physical attack based, and being a water type, where water is a special type in Generations 1 through 3, it's not going to really get much use out of its stronger moves because of that, including Crab Hammer, which is its signature. So basically, like I said, it's kind of just got a bunch of things holding it back, and in terms of it being generic, yeah, it's very generic. It's a crab that's named Krabby. Its Japanese name is literally just crab. So I feel like they kind of just included it to include a little bit of biodiversity, and that's fine. But it's just usually not something you're ever gonna think of or like decide you want to use unless you want to be obscure on purpose. Its one kind of standout role was the fact that it was Ash's 7th Pokemon. He already had he had his team of 6 and then caught this one, and then it teleported to Oak's lab, and that's where you learn about the 6 Pokemon limit. And then it didn't make another appearance until the Pokemon League, in which it was just suddenly really powerful for no reason, despite never getting any training, and evolved after its first fight. So even then, the spotlight kind of goes to its evolution and not Krabby itself. But yeah, as for the thing it's based on, it could be a Fiddler Crab, though that more resembles its evolution. Fiddler Crabs are more known for the one claw being larger than the other. Or possibly a Sand Bubbler Crab, according to Bulbapedia. Those are really tiny, but it could be one of those, I suppose. But yeah, it's a crab. That's all you really need to know. Corsola is another one that I thought was extremely forgettable, and was one of my contenders for most overlooked Pokemon, until I realized that people actually do remember this one from the anime. Apparently Misty caught one in the second half of the Johto seasons and used it a lot, but I didn't watch those, so I was never exposed to it for that. The games actually do sort of address it occasionally, though. In Gen 3, the Pacifid Log Town is supposed to be based off of a Corsola reef, but you never actually see it. Even in the remakes, when you can go underwater and they have the improved graphics, you never see the Corsola reef. And even if you fish in the town, you won't ever catch one. You have to fish somewhere else, so that's a little bit stupid. And Gen 7 also kind of bring it up occasionally, because it is the main prey of Marini. You can only catch Marini by finding a Corsola and then having it call for help, and then Marini will basically come to attack it. So even there, it's kind of the butt of the joke, but at least it's getting some attention. So, as for Corsola, just is it usable? Let's just put it that way. And the short answer is no. There was a series of reviews by Slowflake that were made back in the Gen 4 days, and I remember Corsola specifically for basically saying if you go through the Cerebi Pokemon formatting and kind of go from top to bottom, you see its typing, you see its abilities, which are pretty decent, you see its moveset, which it has a lot of good support moves, and it gets some decent attacking moves too. It has stab moves, water and rock. It can learn Ice Beam like most water types. It has basically a number of options, and then you get down to its stats, and you're like, oh, okay, this thing has an evolution, right? And then you check, and it doesn't. So it's it could be so good, but its stats absolutely do not support it, and it doesn't evolve, so it's kinda garbage. I have actually used one, and it wasn't horrible, but you're not going to get any use out of it competitively. I always felt it would be kind of cool if they gave it an evolution based off of Fire Coral, made it a water-fire type. That would have made it pretty unique, but they didn't. They probably never will, so it's stuck as what it is. And what it is probably red coral. It's, there's a number of different types of coral out there. I don't think this one can be based off of any specific ones, but red coral's fairly well known. It's used in jewelry and stuff. And as for the name, you've got the coral part there, obviously, and the Japanese name is Sunigo, which part of that comes from Sango, which is coral, but the Sola comes from solar, and then Sunigo obviously has sunny in it. And what does this thing have to do with the sun? Not much. There are types of coral that have sort of a symbiotic relationship with algae, and that can photosynthesize, which requires sunlight, but red coral doesn't do that. And Corsola does learn Sunny Day, but it doesn't make any use of it, and the Pokedex entries never mention a relationship to the sun, so I don't really know what they were going for there. But if you want to know more about coral, it's possibly more interesting than you might expect, depending on how much you know about marine biology. Very long story short, it is an animal, even though it looks like a rock or a plant. Basically, they're little polyps that filter feed and basically grow out of the skeletons of the ones that came before them, and that's what creates the branches and coral reefs, and they're actually very important to the environment. So, I don't know, they're kind of neat, but Corsola, unfortunately, is not all that neat. Chinchou manages to stand out from its crowd of 4 million other plain water types by being part electric. Really, that's all it kind of needs to actually be noteworthy, because you have your choice between generic fish number 1, 2, 3, 4, generic crab, generic seal, etc. There are some water types that are fairly useful, and some kind of stand out more than others, but like I said, Chinchou kind of has the advantage in the sense that it is combined with a fairly useful and popular type that usually doesn't get combined with many other types. Seriously, look it up. The electric type doesn't have very many dual types. It's kind of weird. So, if you're going to use a Pokemon that you get through fishing, Chinchou is definitely a good one to go with. It isn't available too late into the game, thankfully. You can get it as soon as you get the good rod. Gen 3 actually has it available underwater, which is pretty late in the game, unfortunately, but it at least kind of helps it stand out a bit. When I say underwater, I mean through, the diving mechanic, not through fishing. So, yeah, it's not one that you really see too often. It's not an overly popular Pokemon or anything, but, I don't know, I've always considered it something worth using. It's a shame I'm not using it on my team this time. And, it's got a bit of a weird origin, so most people probably are aware of anglerfish, basically just deep-sea fish that have kind of a hanging lure from their head. Apparently it's called an esca, and the lure contains millions of bacteria that can glow through bioluminescence, and this is used to basically attract smaller fish, because you're living in the deep sea, there's basically no light, anything, but then suddenly you see a light off in the distance, you're going to go check out what it is, and then the anglerfish will eat the smaller fish. And Chinchou doesn't really look like an anglerfish, really at all. It doesn't have, the giant fangs or anything like that. There's lots of different types of anglerfish out there, but Chinchou doesn't really resemble any of them. And that's probably just to make it more marketable and less hideous. So they just kind of invented an interesting shape and made it look like it could be an anglerfish without really looking like one, if that makes any sense. It is possible that it could be based off of the batfish, though, which is just kind of another weird deep-sea fish that has little fins that it uses to walk across the seafloor. Chinchou kind of has those. And an interesting idea that I saw is that it could be based off of the the male anglerfish specifically, because the ones that you usually see, the big puffy ones with the giant mouth and horrible spiky teeth, are females actually, and the male ones are very, very tiny, and basically when they find a female, they'll latch onto its body and just kind of stay there forever. And the reason for this is because, again, when you're in the deep sea and can't see shit, it can be very hard to find a mate, and so when you find one, you're basically going to want to stick with them, so that's why they do that. And once again, Chinchou doesn't really resemble the male anglerfish in that case either, but it could at least explain why it's, smaller and more basic in shape. I don't know. But, anyway, that's its, real-life basis, and as for the name, it's basically just a reversal of the Japanese name, Chanchi, which is basically based off of the word chochin, which means lantern. And the football fish, which is another type of deep-sea, anglerfish style thing, is called the Chochin Anko, so it just kind of comes from that. I'm not sure why they decided to take a Japanese word and then just kind of reverse the syllables of it for this one. It doesn't really mean anything unless you specifically happen to know that, but there we go. Shellder is, say it with me now, yet another water type, and it doesn't stand out as much as Chinchou, but it still has a few things going for it, as we'll get to. So basically, it's a clam, as you can obviously see. I wasn't really sure of what the difference between a clam and an oyster was until I just looked it up. I still don't really know. I know they're both different animals and they look different. Oysters don't really have the same shape to them, and they're not nearly as symmetrical as clams are. But they're both shelled bivalves of some variety. And I originally thought that Shellder was supposed to be an oyster just based off of the name. At least Cloyster's name, maybe not so much Shellder. But no, it's a clam. And the der part of the name is probably from shelter. Obviously, the shell is just from shell. And the Japanese name is also Shellder, so we don't have to worry about that one. So, getting that out of the way. Clams are kind of weird. You usually just kind of think of them as being a shell with some meat inside, and you don't really think of what is in it. And the reason that Shellder has a tongue is based off of the clam's foot. Clams don't have tongues because they don't really have a mouth or any kind of standard, like what we would consider a standard like digestive system. They filter in nutrients and plankton and whatnot, and then filter it back out through sort of like tubes in the back of them. And the part where the shell opens up and the tongue, foot, whatever you want to call it, comes out. Like I said, that's basically, it's not a tongue at all. It is, they call it a foot. It's basically just used to kind of help dig through sand and to like quickly escape from predators, because it can kind of use it to like launch itself a little bit. Obviously, they're not the most mobile creatures when they're out of the water, or even really in the water for that matter, but it's something, I guess. And so that's why Shellder has a tongue. That was a very long and stupid explanation for that, but basically it's just because that's kind of what it looks like, and they just wanted to make it cute, I guess. So, the way that Shellder stands out is mainly just in the fact that it actually learns a few moves that aren't water type, surprisingly. Because even though it is pure water, it does actually learn Aurora Beam and Ice Beam naturally in Gen 1, and in later games it'll get stuff like Icicle Spear, because its evolution is part ice, so I guess it's just sort of preparing for that. It also gets access to Clamp, which is not particularly notable, but there's not very many Pokemon that get it. It was an exclusive move up until Gen 3. Clamp is just sort of a water-type version of, like, Wrap. It just does residual damage and prevents them from escaping. And, really, other than that, the only other thing really worth bringing up for Clamperl is the fact that it has the weird relationship with Slowpoke. The spiral shell thing on Slowbro's back, or on his tail, is supposed to be a Shellder, even though it looks nothing like one, so it's basically an alternate evolution of it. It's just not one that's really recognized by the Pokedex as being an actual thing. Same thing goes for the crown on Slowking, it's also an evolved Shellder. But, that's never been involved in Slowpoke's evolution in-game. It's just kind of a lore thing, and has been seen in the anime, but never in the game, so I don't know. It's a bit of a weird case, especially since Shellder and Slowpoke aren't next to each other in the Pokedex, and aren't even always in the same games together. So, it's, I don't know, Shellder's kind of weird in that regard. Alright, so assuming that none of my bios ran over 4 minutes, we should have actually just lined up with the ending of the last one there. So if you weren't paying attention, let me point out some highlights. First, there was me realizing that I had no Pokeballs after I caught the Krabby. Well, I had like 4, but that wasn't as many as I wanted. So I tried to teleport to Ecruteak, thinking for some reason that was the last Pokemon Center I visited, and it wasn't, so I just teleported 5 feet away to the center in Olivine. Then I went to Ecruteak to buy balls, then forgot to teleport back, so I took the long way. Then Corsola was a piece of shit to catch, and after that, not much happened. But Krabby is my new dedicated HM slave, because it's quite good at the job. I'll eventually have to get something else to use Whirlpool and Waterfall once I get those HMs. Waterfall is only used in a couple, both of them are really only used in a couple spots, so I don't think they're too terribly important, but I'll obviously want to teach them to something. Might give them to Wooper. I don't remember, did I give Wooper Flash? I don't remember what I gave Flash. want to say Bellsprout or Oddish. Paris. It's probably Paris, because I think Paris is my cut user. I don't even know. But either way, Krabby's obviously not on the team as like a proper team member. It's just HMs. However, the Chinchou in a different timeline very easily could have been a team member, because it was it had a 2 out of 3 chance of being one in my planned team for this game. Since I hatched Elekid from the odd egg, I didn't want 2 electric types, so that was basically my, I was gonna go with a Lantern as a team member unless I happened to get Elekid, and then I had a backup planned if I did, and since I did, I am now going with the backup plan, which is still not anything that I've caught yet. Feel free to speculate wildly what it's going to be. If you are guessing that it's a water type, you're probably correct. By which I mean, yes, it is. And judging from what water types I haven't caught yet, you can make an educated guess from there, but I'm not going to directly say it. So, the only reason I came back here is because I knew there was stuff I could do with HMs. In terms of other stuff that I can do, there's plenty of it. I still kind of want to check out the bottom of Slowpoke well for items, and I know I can catch a Slowbro there. Union Cave has a lot of stuff I can do. I might be able to go through Mount Mortar. I don't remember if I need Waterfall. I know I need Waterfall to access some of it, at least, for, like, the Tyrogue, but I think I can go through some of it with just Strength. And there's probably other miscellaneous crap here and there. I don't know what it is. Like, I'm gonna do a full sweep of the world at some point. But, what is this TM? This is Endure, I don't care. However, I did clone Dig earlier, as I mentioned, so let's go ahead and use that. So once again, I have one Pokemon. Well, actually, David and Julie both have a really good moveset. Or maybe really good is putting it too strongly, but I don't need Rock Slide and Rock Throw. Both of them are better moves than Screech or Bind, but Screech I can at least make use of to preserve PP, and Bind is useful in a bind, so we're just gonna get rid of Rock Throw because Rock Slide's superior. I'm pretty sure it's more accurate and stronger, so there's no reason to keep it. And I don't think I have any other HMs, or TMs rather, that I need to use on anything, so let's leave. Still hoping for that magical 1% wheezing encounter. No. Funny thing about giving Krabby Rock Smash is Krabby was available through Rock Smash, and I thought that was gonna be the method that I got one originally. And then I found out you could fish one up in Cherry Grove, and then I found out you could fish one up in Olivine, where I had to do a bunch of other fishing anyway, so I figured I might as well just get it there. There is still one more thing I can get from fishing in Olivine, but it's only at night, so we're gonna wait on that one. But, anyway, unless I want to go off and bullshit around in various caves and other locale, such as Dark Cave, which has at least one Pokemon I can catch now that I think about it, and I talked about, I think, last time, but whatever. Let's just move on and do some seafaring adventure, I guess. Are any of the people here trainers? Looks like probably not. So yeah, Battle Tower. This was not in Gold and Silver. And I don't think I've ever actually tried it in Crystal. It's basically the Battle Tower from the later games, but less so from what I understand. This is definitely part of the game that I have very little knowledge of, and I don't plan on attempting it right now. God, it's weird hearing this song in, like, 8-bit. Because the first time I ever heard this, I'm pretty sure, was the Battle Frontier in Emerald. It is very bizarre. But yeah, like I said, this might be a post-game thing I'll try out. I don't think I'm gonna worry about getting too far in it, but figure I'll check it out since I'm here. putting off the seafaring adventure a little bit more because I don't want to do it. Given that this is Gen 2, I am starting to I'm like hoping that there's not any like really difficult, like, you have to have perfect IVs type of bullshit to get through it. Let's see. Certain Pokemon have... Okay, then. Come on down to, try out the new Homestar Jr. For a limited time only. Certain children get prizes. Yeah, we're gonna do this at some point later. Maybe. Even that's a stretch. I've always hated battle facilities. Alright, I'm gonna break some rocks because there is a very small chance that they contain something that I care about. If they don't, I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it. Krabby? Yep. There is one other Pokemon that can appear from rocks, but it's pretty rare. It's on my list of things to eventually worry about, along with the things I have to catch with Headbutt. Okay. Seafaring Adventure, let's go. By which I mean, let's move out one tile and then fight this guy. So... this is the main water area of the game, at least in Johto. Kanto, of course, is still more or less the same, aside from being kind of shrunk down and lacking content in a lot of places. And so, a lot of times when I'm just kind of out surfing and fighting a bunch of swimmers, I have some kind of, like, specific rant prepared about, like, how boring it is, or my random hatred of the ocean and that kind of crap, but I don't really have that this time. Instead, I would like to draw attention to the ending of Pokemon Shuffle. I've talked about this a bit in like recent streams and stuff, but I don't think I've talked about it in these videos, so you get to listen to me talk about this for a while. So it's no secret that I've been playing Pokemon Shuffle for entirely too goddamn long. I don't remember exactly when it came out, but I want to say it was February of 2015, and I think I got it about a month after it came out because I didn't realize it was free. And since then, it has basically ruined my life. No, that's an exaggeration, but it's not much of one. It's very soul-consuming if you actually get into the game and try to like get everything and keep up with all the events and crap. But a few months ago, it was basically discovered that they were finally going to be putting an end to the game. There were a bunch of Pokemon in the data, like most of the unknown forms, and like a certain selection of other alternate forms, and a bunch of winking shit. Basically those were in the coding, but then they removed them because I guess they decided they just weren't going to put them in the game after all. And data miners found that basically information on the event stages that usually were... What? Good. Call your mom sometimes, too. Okay, bye. But yeah, that frickin' derailed my train of thought. But yeah, it's like the event stages usually were individually, like, programmed each week, and, like, you never knew what you were really gonna get. But, it was discovered that they basically had come up with a 24-week cycle, at least I think it's 24, something like that, that would basically just constantly be on loop, and those events would just repeat until the game itself shuts off, or like, or the 3DS online service does, or something. And so from this, it was discovered that the last Pokemon that would ever be available was Marshadow, which makes sense. And counting from the day that I'm recording this, which is July 10th, I believe Marshadow is coming out in 1 week. And so, basically everybody in the Shuffle community who has been putting up with this game for so long and dealing with its awful scheduling and amount of grinding that it expects of you and everything, there's a lot of people that are very thankful that it's finally coming to an end, because they're like me and basically just want it to be done with. And so, there's been kind of a countdown to Marshadow, and most of the higher level players are at a point where there's not really much they have to do to be caught up, and once they catch it, they'll be done with the game. I wanted to be part of that elite group, and I was pretty close. As of a few weeks ago, I don't know how long ago it was, but basically I was slowly catching up with everything I needed to do in that game. I had caught everything from the main stages for quite a while back, and all that really remained was I wanted to get, like, I basically needed like 30 or so S ranks, which, if you don't know Shuffle, is basically just when you beat a stage with at least half of the number of moves it gives you remaining. I needed like 30 of those to unlock the last expert stage, and with the final Shuffle update, they also introduced the concept of the, what is it? I don't actually remember what UX stages, I think, is what they are. Which is just a repeat of all 700 stages, but with more HP and the ability to use skipping evolution, by the way. But yeah, it's like, if you, like, they're harder to beat, but you can spend coins on an attack up, like, item. Oh boy. Which is pretty pointless, other than if you hate yourself. But you can get S ranks on those also, and they actually count towards your total. So, what most people were doing that didn't already have everything S ranked up to that point, they were just going to kind of go through the main stages normally, and then after getting to the second round, the first, like, however many of those are still going to be really easy, and so there's basically free S ranks you can get for your 700 that you need, and then you don't have to worry about doing every stage again. But I didn't want to do that, because I figured I've already spent like 700 goddamn hours on this game. It's not going to kill me if I spend a little bit more and, like, do it right. So I've been working on it, and again, this was a few weeks ago. I don't remember exactly when it happened, but I finally did get 699. Everything except for the final stage, Primal Kyogre. I'm gonna tell you, Defense Deoxys was an absolute fucking bitch. I hated that stage so much. I had to do, I think it was 4 complete item runs of it, which is moves plus 5, disruption delay, mega start, and complexity -1, which altogether costs like 13,000 coins, which, if you don't know Shuffle, that's a lot of fucking coins, given that the normal stage that you grind them from gives you 500 per run if you do it right. So, yeah, that one sucked. I also had to spend a ludicrous amount of my resources to get a good team going into it, so I used a bunch of, like, level up candies and skill boosters and stuff, and I finally got through the stage. And so at that point I was basically entirely out of coins. I had to grind up to actually do the Primal Kyogre stage with a full item run, so another 13,000 coins for that, plus an extra 10,000 to ensure that I can catch it, because if you fail with the Pokeball, then you can try with up to 4 Great Balls for 2,500 coins apiece, and, like, god, this game just does not value your time, basically. So, I'm gonna actually go ahead and include the clip of me beating that stage here. Be warned, it isn't very good quality, and I was playing like crap because I was extremely nervous that I was gonna fuck it up and have to go through the whole process and grind all the coins again, so that didn't help. But I got through it. I caught the son of a bitch, I got an S rank on it, and that meant that I only have one stage left after that point, which is Primal Groudon. It unlocks after you get all 700 S ranks. And I'm thinking, okay, there's been some really bad expert stages before, especially Speed Deoxys. That thing can go to hell. Like, that was a really bad stage. But, I'm like, it can't be that bad, right? And then I start looking up strategies for it, and they're like, oh, this is a pretty good stage if you have a final effort Oshawott raised to level 15 with maxed out skill. I'm like, who the fuck? Who's gonna... Is that a thing that people have? And so, like... The thing with Shuffle is, like, you can spend time grinding, but it's gonna take a while, and it also doesn't get... Like, there's certain things that you can't grind for. Like, skill boosters, which basically just make the Pokemon's abilities either stronger or trigger more often, are in very limited supply. You're guaranteed, like, one per week, basically. And that's about it. And I had basically used all of mine for the Defense Deoxys stage. So, I'm like, okay, well that's not happening. What else, like, and I'm looking at what else they recommend, and they're like, level up your Primal Kyogre, you can use up to 20 raise max levels on it to get it to level 30, and I'm like, oh god. Like, because just getting it to level 10 is already gonna take, like, a week. And probably the jump from 10 to 20 is probably gonna be, like, twice as bad, and then the jump from 20 to 30, I don't even know how bad that would be. So... I'm like, I'm probably not going to raise it that high, but at least let me try a bit. So, for the first time ever in my history of playing the game, I actually started grinding the Ampharos stage, because that's the one that gives you the most experience. It took me a few days, but I got it up to level 10, and I'm currently still grinding it up a bit. It's at, like, 10.5. I don't know how high I'm going to get it, but it just depends on how sick of this I get. But, yeah, they want you to raise up the Primal Kyogre because it has an ability that can clear out basically 7 rocks on a screen, and does a shitload of damage when it does that. And the amount of damage it does is increased if you give it skill boosters. And guess what I used all my skill boosters on earlier, so I had none of those, basically. So, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. I would love to finish this last stage before Marshadow comes out, but I don't think I'm going to be able to. I don't know, it's annoying, because I'd like to just be done with the game, but it's like this last stupid challenge is gonna... It wants to dig its hooks into me just a little bit further. Like, last night, after 1 AM when the game updated, I got the final Celebration Pikachu. So, literally, there's only 2 Pokemon I need in the game left, Marshadow and Primal Groudon, and as soon as I get those, I'm basically considering the game done. Like, there's still the 700 UX stages, which I am not doing. There's no point to. There's S-ranking the expert stages, which does nothing for you, so I'm not going to do that. There's, the mission cards, which I've completed most of, but there's 2 that I haven't, because one of them is clear 40 black clouds in the Yveltal stage, and the stage doesn't actually spawn in 40 black clouds in the amount of time that you have to play it, from what I understand. So you're basically forced to spend a jewel to, like, extend the timer for another 15 seconds or however long it goes. And jewels are something that you get once every 15 days and are extremely valuable, and I usually use them for Weekend Meowth because you get a lot of coins from that. So that's not happening. The other mission card I haven't completed, I forget what it is. Actually, I think I have my 3DS right here. I'm gonna check. They're not so bad. I just haven't wanted to do them because it's not worth it. Trigger eject plus 15 times in the Snover stage, which is another thing similar to the Yveltal one, where it's like, I think you only have 15 moves to begin with, so you have to, like, actually trigger it on every single turn, which is extremely unlikely. So there's that one. There's win with 20 moves remaining in a bonus snow stage, which is probably not that hard, I just haven't bothered to do it. But yeah, my reward for doing both of those is a skill swapper, which I don't need. I already have like 30 of those. And the other thing that I haven't done in Shuffle and probably won't is complete the survival mode. Because survival mode is where you basically, you spend 3 hearts instead of 1 to do this, and it just kind of sends you through a random assortment of stages in the game, like from the beginning up to the end, or maybe up to like stage 300, I think, I don't really remember. And it's like for every stage that you go into, you have however many moves you had left in the last one plus another 5. So unless you can beat a stage in less than 5 moves, you're always going to be falling behind and like having a hard time with it. And the thing with survival mode is, I beat it once before they changed it, because there was an old version that only went up to stage 150, I think, which is Mewtwo, or Mega Mewtwo Y, I mean. And it was difficult, but it wasn't impossible. And I wanted to make sure I beat that before they changed it, so I did do that, and my stats actually do show that my best record is 50 stages, which means I beat it. But then they changed it, and holy shit is it bad now. I have not gotten past stage 10, I don't think. I don't even think I've gotten to stage 10. And the thing is, like, I'm not that bad at the game. You can... I'm trying to think, like... The recommended team for that one is usually a fast-evolving Tapper, which, if you don't know what that means, don't worry about it, but, basically Beedrill or Shiny Charizard X. I usually use Shiny Charizard X. And, you basically want to use that, and then just a bunch of what are called nukers, which is just something with an ability that causes a massive damage spike. And so they recommend things like Hoopa Unbound, Machamp, I think Azumarill's on that list, I don't remember, Mawile, just basically a bunch of stuff with like Risk Taker and things like that. And so I went into survival mode with Shiny Mega Charizard X, Machamp at level 20 or whatever its max level is, Hoopa Unbound at its max level, and I forget what the last one I used was. It was like, I think it was my Mewtwo at level 30, because it has Psyburst, which does a huge amount of damage if it triggers. And with this team of extremely over-leveled, like, maxed out skill, strong stuff, I couldn't beat, like, stage 5. So, it's like, I don't really know what they expect of you. From what I understand now, like, I might not be using the best team, like, maybe my type coverage isn't the best. I think people want, like, the best strategy now is to use this ability called Hammering Streak. And it's like, oh, just level up your shiny Metagross to level 20 and feed it 4,000 skill boosters and it'll do well. I'm like, okay, I can't do that, I don't have this stuff for it, and I don't want to grind it up, so... Luckily, there's not really any reason for me to do survival mode, except for the fact that it helps with grinding, because it actually gives you more experience than the Ampharos stage. So, it's like... It requires such a, huge starting cost to, like, be able to do it reliably that I don't think there's any reason for me to even try. So, I'm just gonna have to do it the old-fashioned way. But yeah, that was a lot of rambling on a subject that probably not many people care about. but I wanted to get it out because, Jesus, this game. What's my time right now in that? I showed my time in the video, but yeah, I'm at 798.44. 798 hours, 44 minutes is my time in this game right now. I am not going to do the math right now to figure out how many days of my life that is, but it's quite a few. And so when people keep asking, like, are you going to try Pokemon Quest? No. No, I'm not. It could be the best game that Pokemon's ever released, which it isn't from what I've seen. Oh, hey, Mantine. But yeah, it's like, it could be the best thing ever, but I'm done with free-to-play for a while. I might come back to something like that eventually, but goddamn, I need a break. So anyway, this is Mantine. Mantine's pretty cool. I was hoping I'd encounter one. And, I guess we'll go ahead and catch this, and that'll save me a bit of, live commentary rambling, and you get to have some post-commentary rambling instead. I'll go ahead and start that, and by the time it's done, I might actually have this thing in the ball. Mantine is another water type that basically attempts to have a number of interesting things going on with its design, and then never really goes all the way with any of them. It's kind of weird. So, at a base level, obviously it's supposed to be based off of a manta ray. It doesn't really do anything all that spectacular with that. It basically just looks like a manta ray. It doesn't have any additional frills or anything. But it has the little Remoraid stuck under its wing in most of its artwork and in the early generation sprites. And we're going to be getting back to that. So, Mantine is part flying. Same as Gyarados. Gyarados basically has almost no reason to be part flying and doesn't do anything with that type, while Mantine sort of kind of does, but not really. Basically, in the Pokedex, it's referred to as the kite Pokemon. It does kind of look like a kite, and it can, like, breach the surface of the water and glide a bit, which there are actual rays that do that, so it kind of has that going for it, I guess, in terms of, like, why it's a flying type, but it never really seemed like a good enough reason for me, and it doesn't really do anything with the type either, so it's kind of I feel like it's tacked on to make it not pure water, and so by them doing that, they gave it an added resistance to grass, but they made it double weak to electric. And Mantine is specially defensive. That's like its main stat, and so that helps it survive the 4 times effective electric hits, but it's still, any 4 times weakness is not really a good thing. And also, it's worth pointing out that it is the version counterpart to Skarmory, which of course does not live in the same area because they're totally different types of animals. And Skarmory is physically defensive. And between the two, Skarmory is definitely the superior and the one that's used more often. So, going back to the Remoraid thing, like I said, it's usually pictured in the artwork as just kind of hanging out there, and that's a reference to certain larger marine animals sometimes having smaller fish clinging to them, usually Remora, and that's basically just sort of a symbiotic relationship where the larger fish, in many cases a shark, I don't know if it's ever really seen with manta ray specifically, is basically there to protect the smaller fish, and the smaller fish is there to eat parasites and other unwanted things that stick to the larger fish's body. And in this case, it's also used as sort of it basically makes it look like a fighter plane, kind of. Like, Remoraid is usually meant to kind of be seen as a gun or some kind of weapon. We'll talk about that more when I talk about that one, but it's like the Mantine is carrying it around as a weapon, but it never uses it. And it's even weirder because in Gen 4 they introduced the baby form, Mantike, which, not really much to say about that one, it's just Mantine but less so, and they didn't really have much of a reason to introduce it because Mantine was never all that popular to get a baby, but whatever. And Mantike evolves when you have a Remoraid in your party, but doing so does not consume the Remoraid, and the Remoraid is not actually in the sprite anymore because they removed it as of Gen 4. So it's like they had all this stuff planned out, but they just didn't finish it. It's really weird. Anyway, as for name, Japanese name is Mantine. Obviously both English and Japanese have the Manta part in there. The Tane or Tyne is some kind of... It's either the river Tane or marine or brine or something. It could be one of those, I don't know which. Okay, so yeah, as predicted, that thing did not want to get in the ball. I sure did use all 5 of my Great Balls and my Ultra Ball, and it broke out of every one of those, so that was money well spent. I don't actually know the earliest that I can buy Ultra Balls, but, oh well. So, back to Ocean. And I believe I'm about done talking about Shuffle. I can't think of anything else I'd really need to say about it. But yeah, I mean, that game is very obviously meant to get you to spend money, like, which I can't fault it for that. Like, it's supposed to, that's its whole point. To make money on a free game, you have to make it kind of shitty to entice people to spend money on it. But, I don't know. I made it through the entire thing without spending any. I'm somewhat proud of that fact. Not really, but a little bit. I don't know. They really started kind of hammering it in towards the end, too, because, I said I wasn't going to talk more about it, but I guess I am. When I mentioned Weekend Meowth, let me explain what that is for the, those not in the know. The normal Meowth stage is the one that you can grind for coins, and you can get up to 530 per round if you do it right. And then there's Weekend Meowth, which, as the name suggests, is only available to play on weekends, and normally you can play it one time and then that's it. It can give you a decent number of coins if you do it right. It's still very luck-based, but if you have a team that's built around clearing out as much crap as possible and trying to get combos out of it, then you can do well. I usually do Mega Salamence, Lugia, Noivern, and a blank space, because the blank space will put in a Pidgey, and then both Lugia and Noivern can eject it from the board, and Mega Salamence will erase 10 of a random flying type, so it basically just kind of combos itself pretty well. But yeah, we'll always do that, obviously, once per week, but if you spend a jewel, you can also play it an additional 3 times, and this is the most economic use for a jewel, because even if you save up a bunch of them to just buy coins from the shop directly, it never gives you as many as just playing the Weekend Meowth stage, so that's basically the best place to use them. However, there's other stages that appear once per week. There's Victini, which gives you a lot of experience points, and there's Eevee, which you can get skill boosters from, which, as I said before, make your abilities stronger. And you can spend jewels on those to play them again. However, 1 jewel equals 1 more play, which is kind of lame. And they also give you the ability to play it up to 14 more times. So keep in mind, if you buy when you buy jewels in bulk, like these are the basic, like, the real life currency that you can get from the shop. Like, if you buy them in bulk, you get deals on them, but if you just buy them one at a time, 1 jewel is $1. So it's basically like, yeah, I'm gonna spend, let's just say the discount brings it down to 10. I'm gonna spend $10 to play the Eevee stage 14 more times this week. Like, really? I do wonder if people actually do that. I feel like that's not that good of a deal. Like, yeah, they're useful, but not that useful. I don't know. Wow, what were they thinking? Okay, so I don't know how much of this ocean I've explored yet. Probably not much. I've not paid attention to any trainer dialogue, because it's all just the usual, wow, why are you riding a Pokemon? Don't you know how to swim? And, I don't know where I put my Pokeballs while I'm in my swimsuit, tee-hee. Yes, the female swimmer voice is still the, like, Mickey Mouse-capade's voice. It just is. But yeah, this is the Whirl Islands. We won't be able to get in here for a little bit. This sure is where Lugia is. I'm trying to think where you even get the Silver Wing and Crystal version. Because in Gold and Silver, like, let me back up a bit. Gen 1 obviously did have legendaries. It had the Bird Trio, and then it had Mewtwo, and then Mew was, like, the mythical. But none of those were version exclusives, and they weren't, like, the box mascots or anything. Gold Silver started the trend of having basically a version mascot legendary. But, unlike basically all the games that came later, you could get both mascots in both versions. It's just the one that matches your version was available earlier on, and would, because you get it at a lower level, it would have access to its signature move, whereas the other one wouldn't. Unless you ran it through the Stadium 2 move relearner, which nobody wants to do. But, I don't even remember what was sent out, speaking. So it's like, normally you get one of the wings that lets you get into the legendary area, like, after the 7th, or, I think before the 7th bat. I think you get it from, like, the Team Rocket takeover bullshit, which is either right before or right after Price. I never remember which. So, around the 7th badge. And then the last one, the other one you don't get until Kanto. And then Crystal, because it has a different mascot, change things up a bit. You can still get both of them, but I think they're both post-game. I know Ho-Oh requires you to catch all 3 of the beasts. I don't know if it has a different requirement besides that. I guess I'll find out eventually. But point is, can't get into Whirl Islands right now, but it's a place. That's about all I can say about it. Is it based off of something near Japan? Probably. I don't know what, though, because I haven't done any research on it. I do know that it's the site of one of 4,000 sidetrack episodes in the anime. Because, so yeah, people talking about Lugia. Yeah, Johto was really, really bad about filler episodes. I have mentioned this a million times, but I stand by it. Other seasons have had filler. Like, Indigo League had some, and the later ones I'm sure have plenty of it too, but Johto is just the most tedious bullshit. And, I know that, like, I never watched these episodes, but I know that when they got to this part of the game, there was, like, the Whirl Cup, which was, like, some kind of tournament that took place around the Whirl Islands, and Ash and Misty were both in it, and I don't know if either of them did well. I don't care, but they're like, hey, we need to pad this out even more, so let's just make up a random tournament. This'll give us the opportunity to give all 4,000 of the new water types their own dedicated episode, and it'll be good. There might have been some good episodes in that, I couldn't tell you. So let me not have my slow-ass Steelix in the front of the team. Basically just hunting down the last few trainers at this point. There's nothing else in the water. It's just Tentacool, Tentacruel, and Mantine. And in Silver, it's just Tentacool and Tentacruel because Mantine is not in that game. What would it be like if House? How many forks can you fit in? How many forks can you fit in what? You'll never know because the battle interrupted it. So many things keep coming out of the pancakes. The water is now pancakes. The horse is now diamonds. But yeah, we're getting close to the end of Ocean Adventure, which is good because I don't know what else to talk about. I've spent my shuffle material. I was briefly mentioning that, oh right, this trainer battle, derp. Wow, my head's in the game. But, yeah, I was mentioning that Pokemon, Quest didn't interest me that much. I know Joel's been playing it a lot, and probably at least half of the time that he's spent playing it has been looking for a Ghastly, because there's this stage with a Gengar boss that's, like, impossible, and Ghastly, I think, was, like, the only thing that, like, if you get the Ghastly and level it up and evolve it, like, having another Gengar would do well. Because there's no Dark types in Gen 1, and that's all that's available, because Gen 1, best set, can't ever have anything else. Evolutions that came from Gen 2 and 4, don't need them. Everybody loves Tangela. Nobody loves Tangrowth. Want to use a Licky Licky? Too bad. How about Scizor? Nope. I don't know. I always thought that was stupid. Like, if you're gonna cater to the Gen 1 audience, at least throw in the evolutions. Like, there's so many Pokemon that became better in later versions because they got evolutions, and you just can't use them in that situation, so tough shit. Have fun with your Golbat. I don't know. But, I don't even know what I was talking about. I was just saying, I've seen the gameplay a little bit. It doesn't really interest me. When it first came out, I heard that it was going to be available on mobile eventually, and I'm like, maybe I'll do that. I'm not going to do that. Totally not at all because I'm opposed to downloading anything on my phone. No, sir. Okay. Well, she's talking about Staryu. I'm gonna guess that she doesn't actually have one, and she's gonna use a Goldeen and how many Pokemon? A Goldeen and a Poliwhirl. It's probably not gonna be either of those. It's probably just Staryu and Starmie, honestly. Nope, Horsey. Okay. Forgot about Horsey. Okay, so Horsey and what else? What other uninspired water type are we gonna have? I'm gonna actually say it'll be something interesting, and it'll be a Chinchou. It's not gonna be a Chinchou. Oh, okay. That's also an option. I forgot. Trainers like to just use more multiples of the same thing. I'm actually genuinely curious. Has anybody, like, anybody watching, has anyone ever done that? Used more than one of the same Pokemon on an in-game team? Because I certainly haven't. I always have enough of a hard time just picking which 6 to stick with. Or in later games, which 12 to stick with. So I can't imagine being like, man, I really love Jolteon. I'm gonna put 2 of them on my team. Let alone, like, 2 Goldeens. I don't know. Youngster Joey run. Nothing but Rattata. Bugcatcher run. 5 Caterpie and a Metapod. I think all the trainers are done. You know what would have made this a lot more tolerable? Repels. But repels cost money. And I'm extremely cheap. I have like 1 repel. I'm saving it for a rainy day, and I don't know. I just didn't feel like using it. Okay, so let's actually go to Cyanwood. I always call it Cyanwood. I think it's Cyanwood because cyan is a color, and all the towns are like a combination of a color and a plant, except for Newbark. Okay, maybe not all of them. Let's see. Cherry Grove. Cherry is not really a color. Like, yeah, they're red, but nobody calls red cherry. Violet City is both a plant and a flower, so that works. Azalea, I don't think is a color. It's just a plant. Goldenrod has gold in it. Ecruteak, I think Ecru... Is Ecru a color? Like, I want to say it's like off-white. Maybe I'm thinking of something else, though. I don't know what the hell teak is. Teal with a different letter at the end. Olivine. Olive can be a color. Cyanwood we already talked about. Mahogany is a type of brown and a type of wood. Blackthorn has black in it. So, yeah, I think that's all of them. 500 years, Rick and Morty. Don't know why that was the Vinny Mario voice. Yeah, the Lighthouse Pokemon is in trouble because I've been repeatedly battling it in Shuffle. Been kicking its ass with a combined effort of Primal Kyogre, Flygon, Groudon, and Tapu Fini. Anyway, here's the gym. We're gonna do that in a minute. I'm just talking with people because I feel like it. I swear it on my green hair. No, I don't know. So, Baklava being a dick, as usual. Anyway, this is a pointless little thing. Well, it's not pointless, because it's the easiest way to get this Pokemon. But, yeah, it's like, it's a gift Pokemon that he actually does want back eventually, which is kind of unusual. Usually they don't do that. But, let's go pick it up. Or actually, if I pick it up, I'm gonna have to do a bio on it. Let's save that for later, because I actually want to kind of get done with this episode at some point. And I don't have enough bullshit to do in between stuff. There's a, besides the gym here, there's the gym back in Olivine, which will take all of 5 seconds to get through. And then there's like another, like, plot-relevant battle here that I need to do, so I guess let's just do that. What is this? Sure. I assume this is for the Game Boy printer. It probably just looks at whatever the first thing is in your time, so I'm gonna do that. What's your pick? Well, how's this gonna work? Yeah, printer error. Okay, I'm done. I do like Natalie peeking above the error, though. That's pretty good. Oh no! You don't have this obscure peripheral that nobody owns? Sorry, come again. Well, I see you don't have a Rumble pack inserted, so this time no Rumble for you. Anyway, I'm gonna check these rocks, because if the Pokemon that I need is in them, then it will force me to do a 4-minute bio on it while I have other stuff going on. Oh, 10%. Let's do this. Nope. Somebody has to now remix the printer error song using Krabby's Cry. Anyway, let me stick you in front because you're the lowest level. Because Basil doesn't count as a person, and Krabby is Krabby. Man, there sure are more rocks to break in another house. I don't know what this house is. And that's totally not anything special up there. That's just a blue blob, I don't know what you're talking about. If you're picking up what I'm putting out, then you come on back. Okay, bye. Yeah, I don't know. I have nothing else to say in this video, so I'm just bullshitting the rest of it. So I actually remember this battle being disproportionately hard for this part of the game. Mystical Man use... Okay, that's a good trainer class. Let's see if I remember correctly, or if it's not actually that bad. Alright, will this Drowsy's Hypnosis have 100% accuracy? Or will it disable my best move? Find out next time. Video abruptly ends. Insert title card gag here. Insert Phalus reference here. Insert Zeke Boogie Doog here. And then I just do this. Alright, well that was a good fight. I think he has like an electrode. I don't remember what his last one is. Haunter, apparently. I like Haunter's cry. It's just... What, you didn't hear me do it? That's because it's impossible to hear. Let's see, how do I want to fight the Haunter? I guess Mud Slap? No, Dig. I still love how this floating ghost is weak to ground. Also, oh, and it used Curse, good. I was gonna point this out earlier when I was fighting the people on, like, in the water, but, does this Steelix back sprite have, like, a curly, like, or not, like, Robbie Rotten style mustache? Or is it just me? Like, what is that? Is that pimento cheese? I think that's pimento cheese. It's like, it's totally a weird, like, what is it, Dick Dastardly or Snidely Whiplash? I forget which one has the, like, stupid curly mustache like that, but... Oh no, the curse. No, not the chains! That had nothing to do with what I was doing, without what was going on, so I don't know why I said it. You can run, you can fly, you can reach the other side of the rainbow. It's alright, take a chance, because there is no circumstance that we can't handle when you use your mind. Sonic boom, sonic boom, sonic boom. Gotta keep on running faster. Sonic boom, save the planet from disaster. Okay. For the record, I have still not played Sonic CD. I, should at some point, definitely. Where the hell is the Pokémon Center? Here it is. It's in the render queue. Since I say that a lot, I don't say that in videos, but I say it in streams a lot, just to explain what that means. Spoony, basically, what? Unless you have a Firestone, I don't care. No. Anyway, ever since Spoony basically became shitty and stopped making content, he claims that, like, he has a bunch of stuff, like Final Fantasy 13-2, in the render queue, like, implying that it's already recorded and ready to go, it just hasn't been rendered yet, which is not true. And so, Basically, whenever I refer to the massive list of games that I said that I would one day play or record or stream or whatever, I always just refer to it as being in the render queue. So, there's a lot of things on that list. Sonic CD is one of them. One that gets mentioned fairly often is A Hat in Time. That's on there. The Brawl LP is still planned to happen once this game is done, so basically sometime in 2035. Let's see. I don't know, I'm not gonna go through the whole list right now. Or any more of the list, because I don't feel like it. Bird, get in there. Do a thing. You can't kick a bird, that's not very effective. I don't really understand why flying beats fighting, and why it, both in terms of super effectiveness and resistance. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. The only, explanation I've ever seen for it is a fighting type can't reach a flying opponent. But if that's the case, wouldn't that apply to, every physical attack? Also, birds have, really brittle bones. And I think if you managed to punch one, it would probably do some damage to it. I will go find a Hoodoo and kick it and test this theory. No, I will not do that. If I find a Hoodoo, I will keep it as my own. I have a plan for this. I'll find the Hoodoo, I'll somehow, make it not fly away from me so I can, pick it up and stuff. I will take it home and feed it some seeds and things, even though I don't have any. I'll just, in this theoretical plan of mine, I'll have some. I'll feed it some stuff, it will become my friend, and then I will let it go. But because pigeons, can remember locations well, it will know that I was good to it, and it will come back, and it will be my pet that doesn't actually live at home, and I will be able to see it, regularly, and then one day it won't come back because it died, and then I'll be sad. That is part of the plan. If that part doesn't happen, then the plan is incomplete. Alright, so, dying animals aside, let's head back here. We fought both of the Hitmons. Will this guy have Hitmon top? Probably not, because that would be too interesting, so... I'm gonna use you, because you're probably not gonna be too useful against Chuck. I mean, he might be, but... I've got nothing. Alright, you look like the kind of person who's gonna have 2 Machokes, or a Machop and a Machoke. Well, I was right about one of them at least. Here's the brown and gray Machop. Actually, that's not even brown and gray, that's just... what would you call that? It's just kind of brown and worse brown. The actual Machop is a grayish blue. And, a toucan with a tennis racket is a grayish blob. There's a reference that not many people will get. I'm sure as hell not going to explain it. Alright, James, you're dead as shit. Just as I expected. I mean, I do want Natalie to level up the fastest because I would like to get a move better than Peck and Nightshade and be able to evolve it. So... oh. It doesn't learn that naturally, does it? I'm gonna look that up. I'm pretty sure it doesn't. I actually feel like that's not even a TM move. That's probably an egg move. Let me see. That's weird, because, like, I know that sometimes, like, gym leaders and Elite Four members have TM moves, but I didn't think that random trainers did. What would it be like if... Going back to heal while I look up Machoke's move pool. This is a song. It's the same song that plays in a critique, except in the remakes they were both made into different songs. And then people bitched. No, they actually did, though. People bitch about everything. They're like, the 8-bit version was so much better, why would they change it? I'm like, but the Heart Gold Soul Silver Critique song is really good. It sounds like traditional Japanese and has, like, cool instrumentation. But by 8-bit music, though, but I mean, the champ, yeah, we can beat it, he's the champ. The following Pokemon mechanic was the worst thing ever introduced to the series. Why? Because it doesn't do anything. But it's cool aesthetically, though. But when you go to heal at the Pokemon Center, it takes an extra 2 seconds to do. I don't know. Still looking up Rock Slide. Rock Slide is specifically a Gen 1 TM. That's kind of what I was guessing. That's the only way that you can get it on a Machoke in Gen 2. That's a very odd thing to give a random trainer. I love the random bitching that people always have against every game. People seem to be very nostalgic towards Heart Gold and Soul Silver now, though. I think that's where we are in the Pokemon cycle, is people like Gen 4 the best. Because Gen 3 got its remake. So now everybody's like, oh my god, when are we gonna get a Diamond and Pearl remake? Except those games were the worst, I hate them, but Platinum was so much better, and it's the best game in the series. But, like, okay, they're not that different, but... I don't know who these hypothetical people that I'm making fun of are, but they have dumb opinions. To be fair, Platinum is actually quite a bit better than Diamond and Pearl because it isn't slow as shit and has a regional dex of more than 3 things. But they're still essentially like the same game. I don't know. I feel like there's not that huge of a difference. So to claim that, like, one is the worst in the series and one is the best is a bit much. Then again, I also feel like it doesn't make sense for there to be as big of a gap in the Melee tier list between Mario and Dr. Mario as there is, given that the two characters are, like, the same exact thing, But his neutral air, though... That was a random subject to go on. That had nothing to do with what we were talking about. Alright. Yeah, Rage. Yeah, hate that move. Not gonna learn it. Lung. Lung's a good name. Alright, well there's Chuck. And we're not gonna fight him yet, because I need to go heal again. So, as I've done with every gym leader before this point, Chuck's team is really freaking bad. Like, at least he's not as predictable as he could have been. But, let's see, what fighting types did Gen 2 add? I know Hitmontop and Heracross. Were there any others? I'm not counting Tyrogue. That might have been it. But even if it was it, is there a reason we couldn't have given him at least one of those? Put you in front just for shits and giggles. So yeah, let's see what his team is, as if I don't already know. But, 5th gym leader. Or 6th if you do price first, but he's 5th in the list. Destruction of property! I like Chuck, he's very stupid. Alright, so starting with the Primeape, everybody's favorite fighting type. It's okay, I guess. I don't know, I never found it particularly interesting. Okay, can we get lucky with Hypnosis? Yes, we can, actually. Basically, the moment that this thing wakes up, I'm probably, if not immediately dead, then I'll be dead very soon. Oh, there we go. Or it could be a dipshit and use Rage. Okay. Primeape doesn't have a sleep nullifying ability in later gens, does it? I'm trying to remember if it... I feel like it does, but I think I'm wrong. I like this strategy. Put something to sleep and then just stomp on its face until it dies. It's, very wholesome. Okay, so that was Primeape. It, slept for most of that, so we didn't get to see much of it. And Poliwrath. Because Poliwrath. It's something you don't see that often, I'll give it that much. Okay, I'm actually just gonna lower this thing's accuracy, because I don't feel like wasting a turn switching. Okay, I'd like to point out Dynamic Punch is 50% accuracy, and I had already lowered it with Mud Slap, so that was some RNG there, but that's fine. I wanted to get the free switch anyway. Are you gonna hit with it again? Oh, okay. Are you gonna hit with it again through Paralysis? No. Surprisingly not. I don't know how much the accuracy drop lowers it by, but I'm gonna say probably around 40%, and then with the Paralysis chance makes it like 30, so that would have been pretty good if it was, if it actually had connected. But yeah, that was Chuck. He was, forced to be reckoned with, apparently. Still think he probably could have had more than 2 Pokemon. Maybe one of which could have been not from Gen 1. But that's just crazy talk. Also, Storm Badge. I don't know. Level 70 this early in the game? Good lord. And I have my very own Dynamic Punch TM so that I too can miss frequently. I'm guessing Elekid might learn that. I'm gonna check just out of curiosity. I'm not gonna use it, but... yeah. I mean, type coverage-wise and power-wise, it's better than Dizzy Punch, and they both cause confusion, but that 50 accuracy is not really what I'm wanting. So anyway, now we get to go immediately do another gym leader battle. Except I think I get to climb a lighthouse first. First, let's go talk to Chuck's wife. It wasn't hard as much as it was just tedious. Why does the game feel the need to tell you that you put the item in the pocket? It's like, you got blank, you put blank in the something pocket. It just seems like a waste of time to mention that. The ocean is blue. Do you wish to surf? Oh, hey. I guess it makes sense that I can't surf on a green tennis ball, but for some reason I thought I could learn fly anyway. I think there was a Squircle quiz that I took once of flying types that can't fly and water types that can't surf. There's not that many of them from what I remember, but I didn't remember Natu being one of those. I've been lucky so far, so now that I've said something I will get an encounter at the last possible square. Oh my god, it actually did. Yes! I called that shit. That was good. And if I had moved slightly differently, I might have even been able to avoid that one. Anyway. Let's go see if Amphia's dead yet. Good commentary. I don't know, I like this song. It's a little bit weird and imposing, but it just always stands out to me for some reason. I like how to climb up, you have to fall in a hole. Here is a thing. No. Okay, bye. Really? Okay. Palu. Pazuzu! I'm gonna follow you. Oh, you disappeared? Did you fall down all the holes already? But yeah. So, this is probably one of the strangest, bits of pacing in a Pokemon game in the entire series. Unless you decide to go, like, mess around and do other unnecessary crap between the gyms, it's like 5 minutes in between the two. And there's no trainers, no puzzle, it's just, there you go, there's your gym battle. So, let's do another. And Jasmine is a rare exception to the Johto Gym Leader not having any Gen 2 Pokemon issue. I still could have probably accepted something other than 2 Magnemite. Like, maybe a Fortress. Let's see, there's 6 Steel types in Gen 2. There's Magnemite, Magneton, Fortress, Scizor, Steelix. What's the last one? Skarmory. Yeah, I would have accepted a Steelix or a Fortress or a Skarmory. Maybe not the Scizor, especially if they had given Chuck the Heracross. But if they had given Chuck the Heracross, then having these 2 back-to-back would have actually been kind of cool, because then it's like the 2 rival bug Pokemon. Not that they're really rivals, but they're both, like, strong bug types. I don't know. It would be kind of weird giving the 2 strong bug types to the gym leaders that aren't the bug leader, and have him just stuck with his Scyther or whatever I don't know. I forget what bug type I said they should have given him. Probably Ledian, Spinarak, something like that. Anything that isn't a Metapod. Well, this has been a good fight. I guess let's get the free switch. Or, okay, that works too. Alright, and now for the part of this battle which, if this was represented in a format other than 8-bit sprites not moving, would actually be fairly cool to watch. Two gigantic metal snakes duking it out, and that's all. That was the end of that sentence, actually. So, I'm assuming he doesn't have Earthquake. If he does, I'm probably dead. I'm saying he, the Steelix, not he, Jasmine. Ooh, that's a spicy meatball. What the hell did that... Why did I say that? That meant nothing. That was really stupid. But, let's actually make use of Screech. Okay, so looking at Steelix's front sprite, I can see what the curly mustache is supposed to be. It's just the mouth going back further. But it still looks like a curly mustache. Anyway, I think this is my first time ever actually not beating this with a water move. That's probably not true. Of all the times I've played through Gen 2 or the remakes, I'm sure I've used other attacks. Including fire attacks. But, yeah, it's like you don't usually think of Steelix as being part ground. Like, Onyx is rock ground, but you think of it as a rock type, and Steelix is steel ground, but you think of it as a steel type. But because it's part ground, it is still weak to water. It's neutral to grass and ice. So, it has weaknesses that you can use. Oh, screw you. That's okay. 2 digs should finish it off. 3 hams will kill him. Would that have even beaten it? I didn't want to use another dig, because I didn't want to waste the extra turn, but, whatever. Also, I just remembered, ooh, that was a nice critical. Wait, that wasn't a critical? How was that not a critical? I didn't do anywhere near that amount of... Did I? I thought it took 2 hits to get down into the red last time. Maybe I'm crazy. But anyway, I was about to say, this thing's using Iron Tail, which I believe is the TM I'm about to get after beating this, so the situation of a couple of my Pokemon having a good moveset and the others having trash is about to continue. Confer upon you. Minor Alba J. I don't know, I was just trying to think of a stupid way to pronounce that. Don't mind me. So, as usual, I'm going to clone the TM before I use it, but I can't imagine anything else on my team can learn this. Stantler has, like, a sphere for a tail, Natu has some feathers, and Elekid doesn't have one. In before they can all learn it. Oh, and Basil. Okay. So yeah. We'll clone that TM, we'll use it, but this side of the continent is basically cleared out. There's still the matter of the bonus Pokemon from Sea and Wood, which I'll go back and get at some point. It won't take any effort, I just didn't want to do it now, because then I'd have to talk about it. And a smattering of other crap that I keep saying I'll catch one day and never do, but other than that, we're basically done over here, and we can head over to Mahogany and deal with a bunch of Team Rocket crap. Exciting!